Wow. No sense going in live. Wow. Oh, and we have begun. See what we got here. See, oh, who do we have on tonight? Where you at? And it's Friday night, a good night for this, because I'm starting to feel that apparently it's not. Hey, Patrick, why am I not surprised that it's you, the first one on tonight? Oh, you just been joined by somebody else. Oh, Illinois. Please tell me it's not Chicago. The old Windy City. Wow. Wow, Patrick, Friday night is like dead. We've had some really bad weather all day in Texas today. Looks like we got more coming in a couple more hours. It's a good time to squeeze out a video. No way, Central Illinois. Yeah, I've had friends live in Chicago. They tell me it's not. It's a whole new country in the last 20 years. It's not the same old Chicago. So I will say that we're building a WordPress website that's going to have all our videos. We are taking every single video upload off of YouTube. We're going to remove ourselves from this platform, except for these live videos. For here on out, 2 to 3 times a week, we'll be doing live videos. They will stay on the YouTube platform. But the actual research uploads that I do on all the different Phoenix Phenomenon and Anuna files and all the future series that I intend on posting, for here on out, they're going to be posted on a very extensive website where I don't have to worry about platform admins trying to take me down because they disagree with my findings. Or the current controversy I'm engaged in with YouTube right now is that I have refused to monetize my site twice. Twice they have sent me pretty extensive emails asking me to monetize my site, and basically inferring that monetizing my site is going to guarantee a much larger audience, a lot more subscribers. And I'm offended by that. I'm offended because I'm not a videographer, so I know the quality of my content isn't really high, but I do know the research content is impeccable. And I have absolutely no fear of debating anybody about it. Even Graham Hancock, I would love to have a discussion with him, but I'm going to offend a lot of people because it's almost become hero worship with people like Zechariah Sitchin and Andrew Collins and all these men that put out some vast misinformation. And the fact that I can get these men to admit that they have read certain texts, and yet once they make this admission, it becomes readily apparent that, well, if you've read the same text as Jason, then why aren't you putting out the same information? And so it's pretty disturbing that these men would come up with these historical fantasies, and they do it, and they're all agreeing with each other, which is even scarier. And yet they all have these multi-million-dollar contracts, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you know what it is. Anytime the establishment wants to promote something, there's something wrong with that. But yeah, we're gonna move over to WordPress. Right now we have a GoDaddy website. The GoDaddy website's okay. It has over 300 links, but the same controversy I've had with YouTube, the monetization is very interesting. They marked 87 of my 155 videos saying that I'm violating YouTube guidelines because I refuse to monetize my channel because I don't want to prostitute the information. I don't want you to have to listen to my content and then all of a sudden it gets interrupted with, well, let me tell you about your health, or let me tell you about government, whatever. It's just some bullshit. I'm not going to sit here and break up my content for just a modicum amount of money. As a matter of fact, I'm about to offer all my charts and all my stuff free again because now that I'm not sick and I'm working again, hell, I make so much. I make really good money as a flagstone contractor, and I was only selling those charts and posters because at that time in my life it was really bad. Not being Texas froze over, and then COVID got me hospitalized twice back to back. The first time was the doctor's fault. The second time was the doctor's fault because they didn't really take care of the problem the first time. But yeah, I made enough money through PayPal. But my second controversy is with PayPal now because the whole time I was getting money from people buying the posters and charts I even put out a chronology of the ancient world, my own personal one. Really, I just published it. Well, what's interesting is PayPal they refused me the money because they sent me PayPal debit cards twice. I didn't ask for PayPal debit cards. I don't want a PayPal debit card. And yet they put my monies that I acquired in PayPal on hold because I can't use the PayPal debit card if there's no money in the account. But I've never asked for the card. I never asked them to mail it to me. I never activated it. So I had a controversy with them, and they said it was standard practice. I said, you know what, man, just give me my money out of a PayPal account and cancel my PayPal accounts, both my personal and my business. So I'm going through that controversy right now. They still have like $290 something in mine. They did release some. And it's just such BS. So with YouTube, it was the same. I don't want to monetize my channels, so the PayPal links and the Venmo links that are in some of my videos for selling things now become an issue. They were never an issue before until YouTube realized they're never going to get me to monetize my material. So anyway, we're going to WordPress. We don't have to worry about trying to monetize live feeds. So I might have 400 live video feeds. This is only my second one, so I'm not surprised that I have hardly anybody listening. And this is Friday night. This is probably the worst time ever to do this. But I don't care if there's just one or two people on. I'm still going to record this video and I'm going to answer whatever questions, and we're going to go in any direction you want to go. But as far as this it's going to be really interesting to see once I'm done downloading. It's taking forever to download. I'm using an app that downloads each video one at a time. I have to do it manually. But once all the videos are safely off the YouTube platform, they will be for free on WordPress without all the YouTube hassle. So that's one. Let me see what these comments are. Oh, thanks for, okay, Pat. Good call. Hey, Monica Farrow. All right. Monica, where are you at again? I can't remember. I do know I have you on. I do have you marked on my Venmo or my Buy Me a Coffee or something. I can't remember. But PayPal, that's what it was. But Monica, were you in Louisiana? Wow, I don't know why I picture you in Louisiana. I don't remember because one of these days I'm going to get on my motorcycle and I'm going to travel the United States and I'm going to go community to community giving dissertations and speeches. I may do it from people's living rooms or homes. I haven't really decided how I'm going to do it, but I do know that I'm going to, in order to make it happen, I'll have enough money through my flagstone contracting to pay for my food and stuff like that and pay for my gas and my travel. But it'll make it a whole lot easier on me if that I stay with the person that is basically getting people together, friends and family of the community, and we just have these living room fireside chats, and we just talk about just some amazing things, and that's one thing I want to do, and I want to film these live. These will be videos on YouTube, me giving these speeches and taking questions and answers in people's homes, a different home for each video, different background. This is a plan that I've had for a long time. I just haven't really been able to execute it. I haven't been in that. I just haven't been ready yet. But I'm getting there. Let's see what that was. I knew it was Louisiana. I remember things in fragments. I remember that. Thank you, Monica. Pharaoh, I already know you've heard it. It sounds very, 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 very Cometian to me. It's Pharaoh is Egyptian. Of course, you don't have the A and the A and the H on it, but Bayous, Louisiana. Well, I live in the bayous of Texas. I live off Lake Conroe. Lake Conroe has hundreds of little bayous coming off of it. Well, alligators have been seen here. We've got swamp, but I live in Central East Texas. Actually, I'm an hour's drive north of Houston, straight down the interstate, but I'm literally 3 miles off the interstate in the middle of pine country. I'm talking about one single country road, 3 miles long, just to get to my little community off the north side of Lake Conroe. That's where I stay. Okay, Lebanese Pharaoh. All right, well, I mean, Lebanon is getting closer to that part of the world. Yeah, yeah. My name is French. I think the only French I have in me is probably my name, Brashears. That's about it. That's about it. Patrick, you still with us? Monica, we got somebody else with us. Hey, whatever questions y'all have, feel free. Feel free. I mean, this is a live freestyle. I don't have an objective. I'm only trying to start and break myself into doing live videos. Pre-studio, because we have a studio being put together right now by a real big fan of Archaics who is in this community, who lives right within probably 27 minutes of me. And I'm talking about full construction, turning an entire garage, soundproofing it, has all the equipment. They're I've already checked it out in pictures and a description in an email, and it's pretty impressive what they're doing. But everything I'm doing now is just a tablet. And I just do it. I just do them in different locations. Y'all seen some of my videos in my van. You've seen them in different places in Country House. You've seen them here. So let's see what he's doing. Here, French. Yeah, Patrick, you got any questions, man? Anything in the Archaics Facebook site that you would want to further information on? Is there any mysteries that have not yet been even broached, or anything about the Phoenix phenomenon, the Anunnaki histories, the Anuna files? I know there's a lot of people that get upset with my Aduna files. Sometimes it's racial. They get upset for racial reasons. Others, they get upset because they don't like the demystification of something that they thought was paranormal, or they thought was, okay, it's awesome, aliens and others. And when they hear that the historical record is describing Caucasians with a technologically advanced infrastructure being introduced into a Neolithic, dark-skinned, dark-eyed world, they get upset because it's not what they were taught. It's not what Zechariah Sitchin said, so, or Van Horn, or a few of these other sensationalists. So let's see. I just saw some pops come up here. I just received 2 more of your books today via eBay. Oh, wow. They sell my books on eBay? Wow. I had no idea they had a resale like that. How many published books have you completed? Okay. My first book was published in 2006 after about 4 or 5 years worth of research. It was initially going to be a book, just a chronology on the life of Enoch. And I had studied the Hermetical literature, the pseudepigraphical texts, about 21 different texts, Dead Sea fragments, everything you can find in the biblical material. And when I say biblical material, I'm not just talking about the King James Version. You do know that the Catholic versions of the Bible have an extra, 17, 18 books. Even there are references to Enoch and even the Nag Hammadi. He's not always called that. In the Hermetical literature, man, he's called by many different names. Hermes Trismegistus. We find references to Enoch everywhere. And of course, and this really pisses off the Sitchinites too, man. But we have a wealth of information about the person of Enoch in all the Akkadian translations of the person of Enki, of Sumer. So in doing that, I put together this vast history, and I kept coming across references to the Great Pyramid and Kalapaturoth, the Sphinx guardian in the desert. And next thing you know, I had a manuscript called Lost Scriptures of Giza, the Enochian Secrets of the World's Oldest Text. This is my very first published book. And when Paul Tice of Booktree Press read the manuscript, I was in prison. he sent me a publishing contract. And in that publishing contract, it specifically stated that in order for him to publish this book, I had to agree that my next 3 books would first go to Booktree Press in San Diego for consideration, and that they had the right to hold each title for 180 days before they either said yes or no. And I had a little problems with that because I was working on Anunnaki Homeworld at the time, and another book called When the Sun Darkens, which was my very first book revealing the Phoenix phenomenon. And at that time, my information on Phoenix was quite embryonic. Anybody who has read that book has seen more information about Phoenix than I've ever revealed in all my videos. There's a lot of information in my first Phoenix books that I've never revealed because in my videos, I don't go through the minutia. I don't go through all the little technical, all the little small things. I give you basic overviews. If you like the information, you'll do as Monica Farrow did and order the books, or you'll do as Patrick, you have done, and you've ordered many of the charts. So I'm not, my first book was Lost Scriptures of Giza, and it opened the doors for me because now I had other authors asking me where I got this information, how did I have access to these texts, and I told them where my source materials and my ability, and I showed them. And one thing that impressed Paul Tice, who used to be Zecharia Sitchin's personal videographer. I have pictures in many of my videos of a white guy holding a camera with Zecharia Sitchin. I have posted these photos in several of my videos in the Aduna Files to show you that this guy, Paul Tice in the background, traveled the world with Zecharia Sitchin, but he's now the owner of a publishing company, Booktree of San Diego. He's my publisher. He is the one that's taken up, and I'm a Sitchin critic, but he's still on board. I mean, he publishes my book. My second book was When the Sun Darkens in 2009. 3 years later, it was released. Before that book was released, I had acquired so much new data, Monica, on the Phoenix phenomenon that I had to hurry up and release another book because I was just exploding with information. And I did. And it was Nostradamus and the Planets of Apocalypse about 2040 and what Mothership did Nostradamus in new Phoenix phenomenon episodes that I had not recorded in the first book because I didn't know about them. Now, the third book I had published was Anunnaki Homeworld. That was a rushed publication, and it had to be because I was showing that all the information on the Mayan long count is wrong. The entire world, the sensationalist media, they were all talking about the Mayan long count ends in 2012, and Jose Argaides and so many different people were publishing books. There's over 300 published books in 5 or 6 different languages in the year 2012 talking about what was going to happen. And when nothing happened, many of those authors just faded away, but some of them even went as far as to write more books claiming that it was a spiritual revelation. And it was none of that. The Mayan prophecies are materialistic. It's about what's going to happen to the world. What began the calendar was the change of Earth's motion and the stellosphere. What ends the calendar is the same thing. You've seen the videos, and those of you who haven't, that's what the Mayan calendar is about. It is a very sophisticated countdown of 1,872,000 days, actually unals, which were turnings of the stellosphere from where the star patterns began to where the star patterns end in one revolution around Alpha Draconis, the eye of the dragon, the old pole star. So in circumpolar constellation was the dragon before the dragon fell. Now, which called by the Great Flood. So my fourth published book would have been, I lose track. Lost Scriptures of Giza, When the Sun Darkens. Anunnaki Homeworld. Okay, that was the fourth one. Anunnaki Homeworld, that shows everything about the dark satellite, which I really haven't even done any videos on yet. Nibiru, which I have. Lost Scriptures of Giza, When the Sun Darkens, Anunnaki Homeworld, Nostradamus and the Planets of Apocalypse. A huge book was Return of the Fallen Ones. And although it's only about an inch thick, it's very small print, and it's absolutely packed full of data on the pre-flood world. So that was my fifth nonfiction book. My sixth nonfiction book was Giants on Ancient Earth. My seventh nonfiction book, like I said, I lose track. My seventh nonfiction book was Awaken the Immortal Within, which is nothing like any of my other books. It's basically about time, space, and how it responds to human intent. It is a reflective medium. It's more about the holosphere and how we interact with our environment. It is way beyond law of attraction. It's a very small book, probably 95 pages, but that's, if I have other books published as far as nonfiction, I don't remember. Oh, I do. Shocking, my biggest book, Shocking Secrets of Antiquity. It's a huge book, 400 and something source materials and bibliography. It's a pretty damn big book. But those are my books, Monica. As far as my nonfiction, I have many fiction too, but I don't seem to be doing very well with that. I don't market. I'm not a marketer. The reason Archaix isn't known by more people is it's just I have absolutely no will to market. I don't know how to market. I just do. I'm a doer. I'm going to do the research. I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to let it go. I said, I'm going to produce the videos. I don't have the tenacity nor the time to sit down and do a bunch of marketing because marketing kills creativity. Content creators that have money, they will pay people to do their marketing for them. And especially most of the things that are heavily marketed on YouTube are backed by some type of agenda. They have a socialist agenda. They have a some type of civic rights agenda, a commercial agenda, promoting some type of product, or as YouTube and I are in a conflict right now is the same thing I was telling Patrick earlier was the YouTube has a problem with me because I won't monetize my content. I have over 155 videos. They want to put commercials in them now. And they promised me that it's going to boost my subscriptions and all that. And I told them no twice. And now all of a sudden they marked 87 of my videos. They might take them off of YouTube after we're done with our little negotiations. And so I'm downloading them right now to get them off of YouTube, and I'm just going to put them on WordPress, and I don't care. I'll just do live feeds on YouTube, like a lot of other people have done who are deplatformed. So, yeah, I don't want to rely on YouTube. I have a very large Reddit page. You can go to that and see a whole bunch of the Archaix content over there. I don't want going off on a tangent like I always do. You see, I just received 2 more books. Okay, Monica, I hope you enjoy those books. I don't know which ones you got. Let's see. Patrick would like to know what brought you to believe in simulation theory versus straight catastrophism. That is a fantastic question. I think I have all of them now. Should I read them in the order of copyright dates? Oh, that's not necessary. It's not even necessary. The very last, Monica, the very last published book was Shocking Secrets of Antiquity, and it has even more Phoenix-related data, so it just doesn't matter what order you read them. Some of the material in Shocking Secrets is also found in Giants on Ancient Earth. It might be rewritten or reorganized a little bit different, so it just doesn't matter. Especially Awaken the Immortal Within does not matter. The book begins in the first like 27, 28, maybe 30 pages very dark. The book is very dark because our world is very dark. We just choose not to see it. So once I address all that, then I start leading the reader into the light. But yeah, like I said, it's a very unique book. And there's 3 videos that basically reflect a lot of that content. But back to your question, Patrick. Patrick asked, I would like to know what brought you to believe in simulation theory versus straight catastrophism. Well, sitting in a prison cell with a scientific calculator, and I am basically compiling Chronicon for the first draft, and I have literally over 1,000 handwritten pages of calculations forward and backward in time between all the events in history that I'm I'm real certain these are the exact dates for, because I had to eliminate thousands of dates simply because they were just best guesses. They weren't based on any real chronographical information. So simulation theory, before I even knew such a thing as simulation theory was already being addressed, I had already recorded all these anomalies, mathematical anomalies between historical events. It just didn't make sense. One simple one that I can convey right now is, and I'll get into some more complex ones, but one simple one is that in documenting the Phoenix phenomenon, I was incredulous that no one else in the world was publishing anything about the Phoenix. But if you read the literature from the 3rd, 2nd, 1st centuries BC, which was largely Alexandrian literature, and they had compiled and amassed through Alexander the Great all the copies of all the texts from the ancient world, and their chief fear was something called the Phoenix in Greek. It's called Fink in Knopf and Fing in China and in different, in Pin and Appen and Acadian and Sumer. It's all the same phenomenon. But the mathematical precision, it just shocked me. So I'm reading a text. It's an it's an English translation of a lot of obscure Egyptian uh, references that all involved arithmetic, and it was just a compilation that's found on the Egyptian monuments and all that. And one of them that just really shocked me was a reference to a 1,656 lunar period. It was 1,656 moons. And I come across a reference to in the Jewish Haggadah that every 1,656 days, every 1,656 moons, the angel of death visits our world, and something happens bad on our world. And as an example, the Haggadah tells the Sodom and Gomorrah story, and how the cities of Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, Zeboam, Bela, the 5 cities of the plain were totally obliterated from the sky by the angel of death. And it just shocked me that the Jewish Haggadah would turn around and say, for this period is 138 years. I had already found many very unusual sun darkening earthquake episodes, all being 138 years apart. So now I give these details in When the Sun Darkens, my very first Phoenix books. I explain exactly what I'm telling you now. About the 138 years, what was found in the Haggadah, what's found in the Jewish records, what's found in the Egyptian records about the 1656. And it just shocked me because I knew that 1,656 years is exactly what the book of Genesis says was the duration of the pre-flood world before the sun darkened and the flood happened. So I see all these correlates and I begin to build a mathematic timeline. And I don't really have to build it. Now I just go through all my notes. I start from the very beginning as far as I can go, and the farthest one I found was 4309 BC. And I start amassing them, and I put them into this timeline. I found them; they're all 138 years apart. It's basically the same thing happening somewhere on this earth. Is reset. It's mud floods. It's some strange vibration from the sky that literally liquefies or seems to liquefy solid objects to where people, livestock, and even whole cities just sink into the ground. And when the noise ends, everything turns solid again. So I keep finding this over and over, and it's always 138 year intervals and 138 years apart. And what shocks me even more is the precision. We can suspend our disbelief and believe that in a 5,000 year period, an object returns to transit the sun. Transit means it passes directly between us and the sun and blocks out the solar light to darken some part of the earth. Now, we can suspend our belief, and let's just say that that can't happen, that the orbital periodicities can actually go and work that way. But in the month of May, every single time, around mid-May, May 14th, 15th, and 16th, that's not possible. That is too precise. There is nothing in there is no comets and bolides. Nothing in Newtonian physics can move with such precision. So here's one note I had in answer to you, Patrick, is that the absolute precision of the timing of the Phoenix phenomenon isn't possible. And yet we have all the historical data. We have all the chronographical material. We can put it all up. Anybody can follow my research by just chasing my source materials, reading from the bibliographic notations, finding those things in those books, and put together the Phoenix. I'm not needed. Can put together the whole Phoenix phenomenon because I didn't date a single thing. So to find this whole 5,000 year timeline that the next point on that, the next data point is mid-May of the year 2040. Now, we find all this in history. In 1902 was the last time. And if y'all haven't seen my 3 1902 videos and all my Phoenix phenomenon videos, then you're probably not going to understand the value of this next statement. But these are data points going back every 138 years. So if you have enough data points like I do, 23 of them now, going back 5,000 years every 138 year intervals, then it takes it doesn't take any genius to extrapolate that the next 138 years, something real bad is going to happen. But what's really interesting is that Mother Shipton did not have access to this data. Nostradamus did not have access to this data. Um, I can't remember his name. Old Trithmithius did not have access to this data that we know, because none of his other contemporaries ever cited that he had spoken about it, and yet they all predict that around 2040 something major was going to happen. Mother Shipton didn't mention a year, but she did say 1 century after a Second World War, and she said this 500 years before the First World War. That is significant. So 1 century after a Second World War, she perfectly describes the Phoenix phenomenon. Sky Dragon comes, and everything that I said in my prior books before I ever mentioned Mother Shipton, because I didn't even know her about her prophecy when I originally published When the Sun Darkens. So Nostradamus said the same thing. 2 cataclysms are coming back to back. 2 sky dragons are coming back to back. One's 2040, one's 2046. All the Fenris wolf. Remember the Fen, the Knopf, Phoenix. The Nordic Viking version is Fenris, but when he comes to swallow the moon and swallow the earth, and the Midgard serpents around the world again, this is May 2040, and we have many traditions for great destructions in antiquity, all occurring in the month of May. Now, this was just one point of evidence. This precision is fantastic. There are others, such as all the calendars that we have are retrospective. Not one single calendar ever began when we have it recorded that it began. They were all created ex post facto, and that's another very significant thing. The Anno Domini calendar was created in 526 by Sosigenes. However, it wasn't even used by most of the world until over 400 years later. However, the mathematical perfection between the BC and AD dates when compared to old Annus Mundi dates is shocking. When you see the forward and backwards, it almost like the calendar is like a palindrome, and you're going to have to wait till my videos come out to understand what I'm talking about. It is some shocking stuff. I can give you like one small example now is the Trojan War, 1229 BC, dated by many sources as the year 1229 BC. It was the 10th year of a war that for the strip of land called Ilium. The capital was Troy. The Mycenaeans under Agamemnon had been attacking for a decade. The Danaan joined in, which were descendants of Israelite peoples, and they had joined in the Trojan War. And in the year 1229, Troy fell. The people of Troy, knowing their fate, if they stayed, got in their ships, and whole fleets left. Some of those fleets were found and enslaved. Those people were enslaved. Others made it to Spain. From Spain, where they settled in colonies that they call Malesia. Then from there, they made it to the British Isles. The ancient records of Albion, ancient British traditions and records all claim that Londonum was originally Trojanova. It was New Troy. Then it became Londonum, and now you know it's London. Now, also, a very significant body of these people landed in Italy. When they landed in Italy, they stayed there for a while. Basically, an insignificant people that moved in and began to assimilate with the Latins and the Etruscans. And then they became a power unto themselves. 476 years later, 476. Now, 476 years after the fall of Troy, they founded Rome in 753 BC. Interestingly, Rome lasted 1,229 years to 476 Anno Domini, when the descendants of 10 tribes of people who claimed descent from Palestine, these were Israelites, defeated them. This would have never been possible. This arithmetic would have never been possible. Trojan War, 476 years to the founding of the Roman state. Troy is 1229 BC. Rome lasts 1229 years. The 476 years between the fall of Troy and the emergence of Rome is mirrored in the Anno Domini calendar's 476 AD date for the fall of Rome and now the rise of the descendants of Troy and the enemies of Troy, Mycenaeans, the Greeks, the Danans, and all that. So this is just one example. I have recorded hundreds of examples where these calendars mirror each other. And the 476 year period is found. I have a whole page of over 20 different historical events that were all exactly 476 years apart. And they all involve the rise and fall of empires and kingdoms. And when they reemerge, it's the same cultures, it's the same peoples, but it's different. It's a different location, a different time period. And this has happened over and over. So the more I found these mathematical patterns throughout history, Patrick, the more I was convinced that the architecture of some type of divine entity was guiding human events. And it led me to believe in all, because I kept finding proportions of phi, proportions of pi, curvature equations, palindromes everywhere. History is absolutely packed full of mathematical anomalies that don't make sense. It's entirely too precise. So I recorded all this because I was so insulated from outside opinions and hypotheses and data. I was able to explore all these data sets that I had created without it's hard to explain. I was so isolated from the world that I could actually seek answers within, and I was forced to think. So my release from prison was a shock when I come into contact with all these people who are now talking about, well, of course, we live in an ancestor simulation. And I would listen to their arguments and I would cringe because I was like, no, man, that's not why. I said, you're giving all these crappy ass folks, man, people need to know the truth, man, about history, why this event unfolded. Here's the mathematical. Look at this. This is 1.618. All you have to do is take this date right here. You see it's only 72 years from that date right there. That 72 years multiplied by 1.618 divided by pi 3.1416, and you'll find the exact date in the future when the exact same people suffer the exact same thing. And I did this and I show it thousands of times in Chronicon. I show it over and over and over in many of my notes. I'm about to release an entire series of videos that shows these mathematical patterns throughout history and shows the precision and shows that what we are experiencing is a construct. Yes, it feels real. Yes, the central nervous system has us jacked into something that is absolutely both beautiful and horrific. But it's not real. And there's no way the history of the world could have unfolded the way we have recorded it. It's not just the way we record it, but the way we find things. When archaeologists excavate ruins in Nineveh, and then they find a whole library that's been buried completely entombed in mud, and they pull these texts out that are perfectly preserved, and they say that Ninus reigned for 43 years, and during his reign, the moon split in two, and Shamash went to war with the earth. And people burned and were scorched. Well, Shamash is the sun. And we find all these things, and then we see that was 864 years before, and exactly a perfect description of another civilization, Harappa. Mohenjo-Daro suffered the exact same fate. They were burned from the sun. The sun just started getting larger and larger and hotter and hotter and hotter. People just literally melted. And their skeletons are still seen to this day, holding hands in the ruins of Harappa, unless they've excavated. The Russians took a lot of pictures of the skeletons of the people that had basically been vitrified where they stood. I don't know what it was, solar exosolar activity, I don't know what it was, but it happens with such mathematical precision we cannot deny that we're living within a construct. Either God is a huge divine mathematician and that we exist within him, which would perfectly explain all the reality tunnels that are synonymous, these constructs that we live on that have predictive value, or we are living in a computer simulation and all these anomalies that I've detected. I am looking at a very sophisticated computer logarithm from within. And that's my conclusion now. I hope that's the best way I can answer your question, Patrick, is that I came to believe in simulation theory because I had already believed in it by virtue of my research. but it took my release from prison to come in contact with the concept simulation theory before all my evidence clicked into place, and before I realized, well, okay, this is what I believe. I had no frames of reference for it. I had no. I never heard of simulation theory when I was in prison. All I did was put together the entire. I had amassed so much data to prove something that I had yet just really no name for. That's basically what it is. I'm my hub Lebanese. I just okay. The arithmetic. And Patrick, it's not just Phoenix theory. If you've looked at the Nibiru material, it's the same thing. Now, because its orbit is 792 years, it's only appeared fewer times. But there's some new research by, I want to say his name is Patrick LaViolette. I know his last name is LaViolette for real. He wrote a book called Earth Under Fire. He's written 2 other books, but he shows that the gamma ray signatures that has been recorded in rocks has only happened like 11 times in history, and he gives the date approximates for those gamma ray bursts when they happen. His theory is that something outside the solar system is causing cataclysms on Earth, and evidence of this is when the gamma rays pass through our solar system. Well, I found it very interesting that 9 of his 11 gamma ray bursts coincide perfectly with the appearances of Nibiru. So there could be something else out there doing the other one. There's no telling. But yeah, even the Nibiru material, it's too perfect. With everything I've published about the Great Pyramid showing that it was going to be Earth being moved in the year 2046, the 1,872,000 Uinals, the days of the Mayan long counts, 13 Bactans ending in 2046, and then the orbit of Nibiru appearing in 2046. The base diagonals on the Great Pyramid, according to David Davidson, an engineer who had measured that in 1924, having never heard of Anunnaki, didn't know anything about Nibiru. In 1924, the man measured the base diagonals of the Great Pyramid, believing it was a astronomical computer for the movement of Earth throughout history. And he concluded that the whole monument's principal astronomical message was that the world that this monument was sitting on will be moved from its place in the year 2045. So it's just too perfect. And this is only some of my 2046 and 2040 evidence. It boggles the mind that I have to continue to. It's like positive reinforcement. I put out more videos, but it's just I've already put out enough. I've done it within my published books, within my posts, within my videos, but I can't stop because I still have so much more evidence I have not released. So more videos on Phoenix are coming. More videos on the Anunna are coming, like on Nibiru. I have to release 2 or 3 videos on the Dark Satellite. I've only released 1 so far, and that really concerned the Gate of Yakshakak, which is mentioned in the Necronomicon. Let's see. I think that's Monica. Patrick, it seems to me that if the construct was fully controlled by those against us, the numerical patterns would be randomized so as not to allow us to uncover them. Okay, another very interesting point, and let me tell you why. I agree with you, and let me tell you what I found. These Phoenix resets are cleverly disguised. Yes, they happen every 138 years, but they never happen in the same place twice, or at least back to back. There might be 4 or 5. It might skip a hemisphere 4 or 5 times. It'll come back to it, or a continent or a geographical area. Now, most of the Phoenix destructions are highly localized. They don't even occur over an entire hemisphere. It's just a certain area, or maybe every single one of them are hemispheric. And we just don't have the records for them. It's amazing we have the records we do, and newer references are being found all the time. For those of you who have followed the Colburn Bible and the Ora Lind text and the Ragnarok references. Hell, a year ago, I didn't know about all 3 of those, but now we have them. So, but it's a very good observation you make now, because what I've recorded in the 138-year intervals for the Phoenix and the 792-year ones for Nibiru, they're not all. The world has suffered many cataclysms in between, and they're very anomalous. I'll give you an example. What happened in 1899 BC isn't mathematically connected to anything in history. I have tried forward and backward in time. I've tried to force fit 1899, and yet that is the exact date for the Tower of Babel cataclysm. Sometimes I wonder if the event even happened. The changing of the languages, all this stuff, that can only happen in a simulation, in a computer program. It would be only at the touch of a few keys. It's it would take, all you have to do is change just a little bit of data to effect a great huge change in the output. But the creation from one universal communication system to 60 or 70 different ones to cause conflict would definitely have to be within, from, overseers looking over a simulated context, or the entire history is ex post facto. It was written in, the event never happened at all, and maybe that's why I can find absolutely nothing that parallels nothing is mathematically connected to the year 1899 BC. It's unusual. Now, we do have a very unusual event in 1859. In 1859 BC, according to the Sumerian records, and Sitchin had a lot of material. It looks like nuclear war. The Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita, the Ramayana, they're very, the Puranic texts, they're very specific about these star-sun missiles and how they ignite and they blow up with a white light of 10,000 suns, and people's eyes are melted out. Their flesh is burned off their bodies before the skeletons even hit the ground, and they're very descriptive of nuclear atomic warfare. In 1859 BC, we see it over and over. We see the records, we see all these texts, and they're describing this great evil fiery wind, nuclear fallout that started at Sodom and Gomorrah, and it moved and it rolled across and killed that whole forest area and created the Arabian desert, and kept moving, and it took out Sumer, it took out Akkad. It left Babylonia and Assyria, which are further to the north. And Babylonia and Assyria's records are the ones that preserved this for us. Babylon then became a major empire and continued, even though it was taken over by the Amurru, the Westerners, called the Amorites. And this is where Hammurabi comes into play. He was a foreign ruler, an Amorite, over a Babylonian dynasty. But this was 10 years after this event. So 1849 BC, we had this massive destruction. All these cities are burned, all stuff. And in the Annus Mundi calendar, the ancient world's calendar, can you guess what year 1849 BC is? It's the year 2046. Again, here's another cross-calendrical parallel. That's a new term. I have not divulged this yet. This is the very first time I've ever mentioned cross-calendrical parallels. But in my books, I mention them all the time. In my videos, I've been waiting because I don't want to get into that yet, because most people will just think I'm rambling about our entire history is palindromic, and cross-calendrical parallels are found everywhere, even though some dude named Sosigenes created the Anno Domini calendar. It wasn't even used for 3 or 4 centuries until after that. Some other guy created the Urb Ab Condita calendar of Rome. Then the Year of Rome calendar, the Greek Olympiads, which started in 776, the Pythian calendar. I have all these calendars in my Chronicon, and it can show you what the exact date was in all these calendars for whatever historical events were occurring. But when you study these calendars and the events that happen within them, you find palindromes. You find cross-calendrical parallels going forward and backward in time, where you could have absolutely predicted what was going to happen if you'd have been paying attention. So, I haven't wanted to talk about that yet because I haven't released those videos. And one thing I know is that to invite discourse on an unknown or a difficult to understand phenomenon only promotes controversy. And I would spend more time trying to defend a position for which I haven't even promoted yet. So those videos are coming. Believe me, I got over 155 videos now. I got a lot more to release. And like I said, now that I'm healed and I'm back to flagstone contracting, I'm making pretty damn good money. Again, we've had some bad weather today and yesterday, and probably again tomorrow. That slows me down, but also allows me to do videos and prepare material for future videos and posts. These live videos are not going to be the only videos I'm doing. I'm still going to be doing uploads like my other YouTube videos. But once I've removed all the uploads from this YouTube platform and put them on my WordPress website, all future uploads like the Anuna files posts, they're all going to be free, but they're going to be on WordPress. I mean on WordPress. They're not going to be on YouTube. So I hope that answered your question, Patrick. It seems to me that if the construct was fully controlled by those against us, the numerical patterns would be randomized. I need to continue that. I need to continue that one. Randomized. We do have cataclysms like in 1883, Krakatoa. We have the very anomalous Chicago fires. You live in Illinois. I don't know what kind of research you've done, but if you've delved into Charles Fort's material and Ivan T. Sanderson and some of these guys, they data mined the old archives. They uncovered so much amazing material before the censorship era of World War I, World War II, and came across original books and photos of what was going on. The Great Fire of Chicago, I mean, don't believe the official version. Just like today with the news being so fake and ABC, CBS, and NBC being so artificial, it's no different in the 1890s, 1860s, 1850s. Now, many of the news sources were quite genuine, such as the discovery of 9.5 foot tall giant skeletons and all over America. They've been found everywhere in America. Some of them with 6 fingers and 6 toes, red-headed, red-bearded giants. It's very interesting. But with the fires, what was going on in the 1800s is very similar to what just happened in California in the past 9 months. Strange things, whole forest fires. Humans are not setting these fires. There's nobody out there lighting matches and throwing them in California. 10,000 different fires going around. Too many people have seen unusual phenomena in the sky that is creating these fires. Some of the neighborhoods in California, it's almost as if a huge swath of energy just passed through the neighborhood and burnt up every single house, every single vehicle, everything of human manufacture, and not one sparrow's nest, tree, or blade of grass got burnt. So bizarre. A lot of this has been kept from the public. I don't want to get into it because I really don't want to talk. I really don't want to haggle with YouTube censors and all that crap. But it's the exact same thing that's been found all around the world. Any of you who have read William Corliss's Sourcebook Project books, they are so deep. They're harder to find. One of the best books is Handbook of Amazing or Puzzling Artifacts. And it shows that whole civilizations and cities were vitrified from the sky. Something in the sky just decides one time, this civilization here, man, they're taking them out. And they melt. Don't know what happens to the people because their remains aren't found, but their buildings are vitrified. Vitrification is the application of heat that is so rapid, it actually changes the chemical structure of the rock and turns it into glass and crystal. And these have been found in England, Scotland, Wales, Cornwall. They have been found across North America. They have really been found all west of the Rockies in all those desert regions. Death Valley. Within under 12 feet of sand in Death Valley is an entire civilization that was vitrified. A lot of evidence for that. The Utah Salt Flats, the entire petrified forest in Arizona was vitrified. This is just the opposite of a flood. This is some type of technology. This isn't a celestial phenomenon. Again, the destructions throughout history have been too localized. Throughout Anatolia, Hittite, Turkey. This area, this civilization in 1229 during the Trojan War, it was vitrified. Lightning strikes were seen from the sky. This is what is described in ancient stone tablet records. Lightning strikes, blasts, thunderbolts, that's what it's called. Thunderbolts were seen from blue skies. They burned whole cities in Hattusis. They burned the whole Hittite civilization. It was under attack from the sky. No humans had to invade. Now the Aseans and others like Merciless Kingdom, the Lydians, man, they loved it, but It wasn't them. The Hittites were taken out from the sky. This has happened many times. We probably have enough evidence today to assert that the Mayan civilization was taken out in the exact same way. It's This isn't the Phoenix phenomenon. This is something I haven't for which I haven't found a mathematical predicate. 1899 BC, 1849 BC, 1447 BC, the Exodus event, the 10 plagues. I don't know if that really happened or not. It's not connected to anything as far as other cataclysms. I can find no correlates. 713 BC is connected to the Mayan long count, as I showed in the video, but other than that, it's not. That's the Earth retrograding. 365 AD, the Mediterranean world is absolutely destroyed in tsunamis and earthquakes. Well, as a matter of fact, in 365 AD, the destruction was so perfect that it's only mentioned by one historian in the entire ancient world. It wiped out everything. Ammianus Marcellinus mentions it, and he talks about the boats that were found very far inland in Greece after that destruction. But there was earthquakes all around the Mediterranean world, and the ocean was, and the people of Alexandria died because their dumbasses ran out there and picked up all the porpoises and dolphins and sea turtles and crabs and everything. The octopus, they saw nothing but food. When the sea disappeared, they saw all that food and they ran out there to get it. 3 hours later, many of them had not come back when a wall of water 200 or 300 feet high came rushing back at 100 miles an hour. They're dead. It is said over 55,000 people lost their lives, probably more, and that ships were deposited on the top of buildings in Alexandria. So, to answer your question, Patrick, maybe those patterns can be found, but I haven't really looked. I'm so fixated on Phoenix, on Nemesis Object X, and on the Dark Satellite. Those three objects I have perfect orbits for, but that's the problem. I didn't date the dates that they were seen, historical records. However, we have the whole chronological. I don't want to say orbits no more. You see, I've tried to phase that word out because I am a simulationist now. Yes, I do believe that it is a simulation of an actual or once real universe, and that humans are trying to correct something or prevent something or see how something could have been prevented. It may just be one long study. And who knows? We could all be immortal beings who would decided, hey man, let's just enter this simulation right here and see what happens, knowing full well that while we were in it, we're gonna feel like we're really living all this long time, sleeping and waking and all these trials and tribulations and going to work and dealing with issues and all that stuff and relationships and relationship problems but when we come out of it, we'll return only minutes after we had left. It's when it comes to a simulation, we can't really know the parameters of actual existence because we are admitting to an anomaly, which is that we are intelligence that are confined within a construct that we don't know anything about. We just know that our perceptions of space-time reality conforms to what the simulation has conveyed to us through 5 senses that are jacked into the system. Therefore, we're not near as free as you think. Even in our thinking patterns, in what we accept to be true, the paradigms by which we base all our decisions, we're nowhere near as free as people think. They think we are. It's good to feel that we are free, but as long as you see, you are trapped within the realm of sight. As long as you hear, you are trapped within the audible range. As long as you smell, you are trapped within the olfactory range. As long as you can touch, you believe everything around you is physical and not a bunch of oscillating fields. So I'm just as trapped as anybody else. But spiritual qualities, by virtue of the imagination, I can imagine that I'm in an environment for which my whole being rebels against. Physically, I'm here, but intellectually, I understand that spiritually, I might be confined. That is amazing. Animals don't have that capacity to delineate between fact and fiction. Everything is fact to them because they're experiencing it. It's real. There's no thought processing with an animal that, hey, did I see that or not? Or why is that tree there? And is that tree actually there? Or if a tree falls, am I going to hear it if I'm not close enough? There is none of that with animals. Animals are almost as if they are programmed into our environment, and that we develop relationships with phantoms. They're not really real. So, like I said, all this is within the realm of plausibility, but it's also pure hypotheses and speculation. All I know is that I doubt every single thing that I feel, taste, touch, hear, smell. And that doubt originates from somewhere else, because it can't come from the world that I live in, because the world that I live in is always trying to convince me that I'm here. So it comes from somewhere else. It comes from something deeper. Uh, and by virtue of my studies, especially with a calculator, going through all these series of events throughout world history, I am convinced that we are in a simulation. We have no proof whatsoever that this world even existed before 1902. We have none. There isn't a single person alive today who could say, hey, I can disprove you, man, because I was alive in 1901. There's no one alive today that can say that. It's impossible. So, uh, everything that we're experiencing could have begun in 1872. We just don't know. Everything in history is too perfect. And even if it did unfold the way it did, it's still a program because it's too damn perfect. All right, I've been ignoring some of these. Let's see. Seems to me, oh, it doesn't answer it. I haven't dug into the Chicago fire, just the World's Fair, which is very strange. You know, the World's Fair, man, I've looked into the World's Fair a little bit. 1904, I believe. It was right after 1902, for which I have the resets. I have documented so much stuff. Charles Fort documented it. But the World's Fair from the beginning was a stage. It was admitted it was a stage. If you go into the periodicals of the time, I was looking for a mystery. I'm not going to lie, Patrick. I was looking, okay, I said, oh man, 1900, the World's Fair. Look, if I got close to this to 1902, I bet you I'm going to find some more evidence of the Phoenix and all. So I go in and I look at this, and I see this huge controversy raging at the time between AC and DC currency. And I see that all the newspapers are talking about Tesla's new invention. He's going to power all the light bulbs and all the lights in the World's Fair, and he's going to do it with his direct current. And Edison at the time had lost that contract. Edison was going to light all the light bulbs in the World's Fair, and he lost it to Tesla. Tesla did it. He lit all the light bulbs in the World's Fair. The whole thing, every building was a facade. And what I mean by that is even in the newspapers of the time, it's admitted that everything that was built at the World's Fair was built just to be temporary. Yes, it was supposed to be the greatest, most technologically advanced things at the time, but they were props. From inside the World's Fair, all the visitors would see these beautiful facades of all these buildings, and some of them had rotating clocks, and it was just in this huge glass structure where you could go in and see all these modern inventions and all that, and everything was going to be lit up with electricity, and there was a raging controversy about how safe that was at the time. But in searching for any evidence to promote more of my theories, I didn't find any. Not with the World's Fair. I wanted to, and I found a whole lot since I've been out about Tartaria and the World's Fair and evidence of resets and all that. And I believe 100% in the resets. Hell, I posted 3 videos about it on 1902. But when it comes to 1904 and the World's Fairs, I can't agree, man. I would love to agree with these guys that something unusual is going on this stuff, but I can't because they built this huge fake city to have all this stuff, and all these people from all over the world came to the World's Fair and they did all this stuff. It was all within the realm of possibility, and then they took it down because it was all props. What you see in those pictures in the World's Fair, you're looking at the front props. Behind it is nothing but wood and scaffolds holding all these things up, and that's all it was meant to be. So they didn't build these gigantic, huge marble buildings and all that. That's promoted at the World's Fair. It just didn't happen. They built props, and a lot of the imagery that comes from those times by which these guys are using to promote the Tartaria and these some of the reset theories is it saddens me when I look at it because they're concept pieces. Just like in the 1970s and 80s, many illustrators for like Tor books would illustrate science fiction books and give us a concept of what a city on Mars would look like. It's just a concept piece. People they were highly imaginative in 1904 and in 1902, like we are today. Hell, 1902, a motion picture came out about a man going to the moon, and the moon had a face and was talking to the man and everything. This is a motion picture that came out in the year 1902. It was very popular about a man going to the moon, and it was some famous director's debut movie. I can't remember. Anybody can Google it. Just a Man on the Moon, 1902. You'll see it on Google. All the advertisements for it. But people had high octane imaginations back then. And when it came to concept pieces, they would draw on these big, large pieces of canvas in the 1800s and 19th century, and they would draw these awesome, elaborate cities with trolley systems and huge steepled antenna roofs and all. They would draw these fantastic pen and ink and pencil and charcoal drawings. And now when you see them on Pinterest or when you see them pop up on different platforms, they're used as evidence that these cities really existed. They didn't. These were concept pieces. So don't get me wrong. The architecture, especially the Baroque and the Gothic architecture of antiquity is fantastic. They built some awesome cathedrals and government buildings, and some of them still stand today. I'm not talking about the actual photos. I'm talking about the concept pieces that I keep seeing on platforms that are used to promote these ideas. But I don't want to detract from the fact that there are genuine mysteries in history. There are. But I just couldn't find any when I was researching the World's Fair. I did find them when I was researching the Chicago fire. Strange lights in the sky, things that were going on. Often when cities burned in antiquity, you'll find that the official report said that somebody's oil lamp turned over in a cotton mill and London burned down. If y'all don't know, London burned down twice. 1666 was the second time that the city of London burned down. I think the first one was 1066. Strange how it worked out that way, but it burned down twice. So the Chicago fire was also one of those anomalies. Something very unusual was seen in the sky and reported widely, and then fires erupted in Chicago. Other cities throughout Europe have suffered similar fates. And going back to your original question, Patrick, it is the vitrification rays that come from the sky, where we have found whole cities were basically melted. It seems the same thing has happened now, but we don't make cities of stone. We're making them out of wood. So the destruction still comes. It still comes from the sky. It's no different than those of you who have watched my video on the Black Death in the year 1347. The official story is that rats from Asia, where a plague had broken out, were stowaways on ships that came around the Horn of Africa and brought infected rats to the shores of Europe and infected the sailors. And then the sailors went inland and infected areas, and then in the next 20 years, the bubonic plague, the Black Death, spread over the world and killed 1/3 of the world's population. It's total bullshit. Some moron in the 1800s decided to come up with a theory as to how it happened, and people have been running with it ever since. But if you go to the actual historical archives of the time, like the Anglo-Saxon chronicles, you can go to the Frankish chronicles, you can go to whatever medieval writers were existing at the time. I cited who they are in my video, and you can find many more on your own, doing your own research. But they're very specific about what they believe caused the Black Death plague. They saw cigar-shaped flying objects passing over their fort, spraying foul and fetid, putrefying mists. Some people saw these cigar-shaped objects flying through the sky and dumping the dead, putrid carcasses of raccoons, deer, and cattle on the ground from which the plague came. Everybody at the time believed the plague came from the sky. And for those of you who don't know, the common cold, the common flu, that's where it comes from. The word flu comes from influenza because our predecessors knew the truth. Diseases are not natural to this earth. They are delivered. They come to us. The flu comes from influenza. Influenza is Spanish from influence, from the stars. They believed all diseases and everything that kills people in the air comes from the stars. It's a very old belief. Just like the Romans believed that comets brought disease and plague and all kinds of pestilence. So, in answer to your question, Patrick, that's I came to the belief in simulation theory because things are not things are given an appearance of randomness, but when you study them, randomness seems to disappear, and it's all a part of a construct, a very elaborate, sophisticated construct, and it shouldn't be that way. If history was to unfold organically, you're going to have all kinds of series of of it's just going to be so random. You're not going to be able to find all these patterns that I found. There's not going to be proportions of phi and pi and curvature equations and palindromes. You're not going to find these ratios everywhere throughout events that were very similar in nature. You're not. But I did, and I recorded it, and I'm still recording them. And it's not the way it's supposed to be. I'm looking at a mathematical construct while I'm trapped within it. That's the only way I can describe it. So, uh, yeah, simulation theory is the only thing that accounts for all the anomalies in existence. I don't care if it's Mandela effect. I don't care if it's synchronicity or coincidence. If you experience deja vu, simulation theory has an answer for every single anomaly. If you believe in NDEs and near-death experiences, transcontinental meditation, if you believe in astral projection, all these things in simulation theory are not anomalous at all. But in a Newtonian physics physical world, they're anomalies. They're very mysterious to us. We want answers because we need those answers because the question itself doesn't comport with the reality that's been fed to us. So I'm me being in a sophisticated computer simulation, it answers everything for me. I no longer find it mysterious. I am no longer even fascinated when I find so many parallels that shows me basically what's going to happen in 2021, what's going to happen in 2022, 2023. I'm not because I knew what was going to happen in 2020 in my life and in 2019 and 2018 and 2017 because way back in 2011, 2012, and 2013, I was already running projections on my life and I saw basically the avenues by which I was going to go because every event in history that is similar to another event involving the same personality or the same personalities and relative to the same geographical locations, coordinates in space-time, will have a signature, and you can measure that signature. There are ways to follow the event uh, projection. I call them reality tunnels because reality tunnels are something every single one of us experience. What you go through in a daily life is a reality tunnel based completely upon the predicates of your past. What you have formed as habits and decisions in your past basically form the mathematical echoes of an architecture that you experience the very following day. Unless you make a very conscious decisions to all of a sudden do something else, which is it's very, very powerful to do something like that. To break routine, pattern breaks are creative. You can go your entire fucking life doing the exact same thing. And then all of a sudden, 30 seconds before you were supposed to get on the same bus that you get on every single day for 37 years, all of a sudden you just decide, I'm not doing that. I'm going to walk. Something's going to happen. You're going to meet somebody. You're going to experience an event or you're going to witness something. Some pattern breaks are creative. When you force pattern breaks on reality, reality responds with extraordinary circumstances almost every single time because it has to figure out something very fast to do because you just completely violated a reality tunnel, and now it has to knit for a whole new future for you, or at least bridge one until you get back into your reality tunnel. These pattern breaks are fantastic. I find them all throughout history. Cultures, people, cities, governments, militaries, they all experience these pattern breaks. But unless they're really, really uh, serious about doing what they deviated in doing, they conform right back to the original arithmetic. They'll go back into the same reality tunnel. This is the greatest power of the simulacrum, to normalize slavery and to make you go back and conform to what you tried to escape from. And we do this to ourselves every week, every month, every year. We find ourselves in the same patterns. We get disgusted with it and we think there's no way out. When we get in our car and we drive away from our homes to go do something, and then just one day you're so fed up, feeling empty, scraped out and hollow, vacuous, and you decide, you know what, screw my car, I'm just going to walk somewhere. And then when you walk, by the time you've come back, you've made 3 friends, discovered more about your environment, and don't even know that there's 2 other people in your community that are going to come over within the next 2 or 3 days, because now they know who you are, and they don't, that fear of the unknown isn't there, and they have opportunities for you. Other people are often our greatest resources, and it's because we are a community. It doesn't matter who we are. We are 100% a community, and like attracts like. So when you pattern break, you instantly force the simulacrum to act and to react. It wants to try and put you right back into that reality tunnel, but if you're serious, and you've got a lot of emotion behind it, willpower behind it, you're not going to continue to do the slavery shit you've been doing that you're dissatisfied with. It will start building for you a future that will conform to what you want, because it wants to contain the contagion. If you are not a docile slave and you become a free-thinking individual, reality itself will try to completely insulate the behavior. It will try to isolate you, give you the things you need, give you the things you want, and make you happy enough to where you won't go back into your reality tunnel to infect everybody else you know. And this is what I have found over and over. It's when you make a conscious decision to pattern break. And those same pattern breaks can be found in mathematical echoes throughout all of history. If you study history with a calculator in hand, you will see when different civilizations experienced a pattern break, when a tipping point happened, when a majority of people within that population decided we've had enough, and they did something about it. Whatever it was, the geopolitical politics of the time, an aggressive neighbor, whatever it was, and they decided they had enough, and they started moving in a certain direction, and all of a sudden these awesome things happened for these people, and then within 7 years they were back in the same position they were, but with worse circumstances. The simulacrum had got them right back into the slavery mind and accepting it again, but with even harsher circumstances. So I don't even remember, Patrick, Monica, how we even got on that tangent there. It had something to do with my belief that we were in a simulation. So I can't remember. But me believing in a simulation does not in any way nullify anybody else's belief, because it's our beliefs that knit the architecture of our existence. If you believe, if you're like I was for the first 40 years of my life, if you believe you're a fundamental Christian in that everything is going to happen the way you want it to happen, or at least in God's way, if you obey the biblical dictates, if you stop sinning or whatever your concept of sin is, then that's the life you will lead. You'll go to church 1, 2, or 3 times a week. You go to your Wednesday brunches. You will socialize with Christians. You'll get to know your pastor. You will conform to a life, and that reality tunnel will start to become very crystallized and very rigid. And new things and new experiences will be edited out of your life, and it will become rote, and you will become very predictable. And after years of this, some people do take comfort. There are some people that fit within a psychological profile of being very comfortable with repetitive experiences because it gives them some comfort, some security. Most people are not. And after a while, you'll get bored, and the rest of the church will think you're being naughty, you're sinning, and you'll start breaking away because it doesn't conform. But that reality tunnel already has you. And unless you do something drastic to divorce yourself from those experiences, you will continue to have them, even if it's going to another church or being surrounded by another group of people who are also Bible believers. And although you aren't going to church, you're still back into that community, back into that environment, and you haven't really changed much. So, oh, somebody's asking me something. Let's see what's going on. I hope that answered, Patrick. If not, ask another question. We got all the time in the world. But Aaron Mitchell, that's okay. Hi, Aaron. How you doing? Let's see. Jason, I was going to ask what you think of our present magnetosphere situation. Why the pressure on the nighttime side? Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Mitchell. Not sure I can even answer that because I don't know what you mean by the pressure. I just don't know. I was going to ask what you think of our present magnetosphere situation. Well, I believe we live in a mathematical construct, and that mathematical construct has a very beautiful stellosphere that it wants to convince us is an actual depiction of the real universe when it's not. It's a copy. It's just there to make us feel free, because if we don't feel free, then if we begin to realize that we are in a confinement field as a collective species, then we will not act the way we're supposed to act, and our overseers will then, it completely alters the whole project to make us believe that we are free, so we can be observed and we're watched and we're studied, and what we do and how we do it is a part of this great experience. But if we start to believe that that's a solid vault, and there is no travel to other solar systems and all that, and that we are in a containment field, we will alter the whole experiment. So this magnetosphere you talk about is in the simulation. It's not an actual magnetosphere. This is my opinion based off all my experiences and my research. I don't believe anybody's going to get in a vehicle and pass the Van Allen radiation belts, which is where the magnetosphere is, although the magnetosphere allegedly goes further out into space. I just can't, it's hard for me, because the magnetosphere relies on Newtonian physics, and I just can't entertain Newtonian physics no more. It's the entire world is based off quantum non-locality. Your personality is non-local. Everything around you is absolutely physical, and the only thing that is beyond time and space is your personality, which is attached to your whole emotional capacity, your imaginative capacities, all these spiritual qualities. They're confined through the central nervous system. But outside that, you're free to think about the future. You're free to meditate. You're free to travel in your mind by virtue of the vehicle of imagination, to go where you want, do what you want, build what you want. And in a perfect Newtonian universe, none of this makes sense. It cannot even exist in a Newtonian universe. And yet this is what we were told we live in, this total materialistic universe where everything is in response to chemicals and chemical stimuli. I can't see it. I can't see I don't know. I just can't. The magnetic pole movement, again, it's coding. It was moving 11 degrees a year, the magnetosphere. The magnetic north was deviating from true north at, I believe it was 11 degrees a year. I can't remember. Or 11 miles a year. I don't remember, but I don't know. I just don't know about all these scientific data I used to follow. I just can't follow anymore. It has changed so much. Just like the global warming. The global warming has been pushed on us for so long, and then when it was finally scientifically proven as a farce, the far left just changed the terminology. It's no longer global warming. You won't even hear global warming no more. Now it's all climate change. And the climate always changes. So they done hooked into something now that they can push forever. So no, I just don't know. And I lost you too. I can see those who fell off. So, if my view of this construct that you're living in offends you, then you probably need to go to a channel that will reinforce your beliefs, because this isn't going to be the one. But I'm glad you did talk about pattern breaks. It's something I need to do more. I'm also interested in magnetosphere. Aaron, you talking about the magnetic pole movement? I don't know if Aaron's with us anymore. As soon as I went to talking about this controlled environment, I lost 3 people. That's okay. But yeah, I can't with everything Russia, uh, with all the dogs, mice, and monkeys that they burn up, bring it back. It's amazing that the American people fell for the Apollo missions and that humans actually went to the moon. It's amazing to me. Now, I used to believe that too, so it's amazing that I fell for the deception too. But then again, we fall for deceptions only because, well, for a lack of information. We didn't have that information. We did not know that the Van Allen belts were completely radioactively frying every living tissue that passed through them, and that we had nothing in human technology that could block that amount of radiation. We just didn't. The Russians knew because their mice, dogs, and monkeys all returned back. Americans knew because their monkeys came back all fried to death. But when they opened up the capsules, they found nothing but fried monkey in them. So, and all this is well known, it's well recorded. But NASA's awesome. It's one of the largest intelligence apparatuses in the entire world. They're not sending anybody into space, but they sure. They're sure doing a very good job of convincing the entire world that we are in a Newtonian universe and that what you see in the sky is real. They're doing a really good job of that. Quantum paradox. I don't agree with some of your beliefs, but you have great knowledge and info. Well, I appreciate that. Quantum paradox. Monica Farrell, still here. Man, it's 11:26 already. How did that happen? Man, I'm a motor mouth. Why'd y'all let me talk for so long? That's crazy. Yeah, it's very difficult to wrap my head around. Like, I have a video about the insect plagues. If you guys haven't watched that video, let me explain. We have scientific evidence. We have evidence from periodicals, ship captains' logs. We have a whole plethora of eyewitness testimony that rivers of insects fell from the sky over the Atlantic Ocean and over different areas of the world at the exact same time. Only after it was admitted in the periodicals of the time that there wasn't a single insect left in England. Once human collective psyche accepted something as a fact, the simulacrum instantly went into overdrive, into correcting the problem. When only a few people were talking about, how come the bees disappeared? How come there's no beetles? What happened to the earthworms? Where are all the water roaches? What happened to the spiders? How come I haven't seen a wasp in 2 years? When all of a sudden the scientists took it seriously and started studying, and they went out into the countryside and they dug up rocks and they looked in the countryside, and then it was reported, it was confirmed in the United Kingdom in 1867, 1869, 1871, when it was confirmed and published in the periodicals that yes, it seems to be that all the insects have died and vacated the United Kingdom, the British Isles. The British Isles, there are no insects left. When that happened, all of a sudden, rivers of insects fell from a simulated sky. Rivers. Chimney sweeps changed their jobs and had many of them worked overtime, and whole armies of orphans were hired in London just to deal with the mess. Because now these half-frozen exoskeletons and carcasses of insects buried London, and they had to employ the chimney sweeps just to burn them. They had every single day they were sweeping up insects, all different kinds of insects. Ship captains had to stop what they were doing, all hands on deck, and pushing insects that were falling from the sky that were frozen. When you picked them up, they were cold. Once they thawed out, many of them were alive and did all kinds of, moved around. But within a 2-year period, all new species of insects were found throughout the British Isles. This is a scientifically, historically recorded fact. I can't wrap my head around this because I've read other incidences where this has happened in the historical record. Rivers of insects just falling from the blue sky. animals falling from a blue sky, strange objects falling from the sky that look like meteorites, but when investigators arrive to the scene, they find a gluey, clear plasma-like substance spread all over the ground with a foul smell. Whole species have fallen straight from the sky. Tektites, big giant icebergs have fallen straight from the sky. We have so many reports of things that have fallen from the sky that just don't make sense. Eyewitness accounts of things that have passed through the sky that don't make sense. Things do not make sense to us because the paradigm that we have accepted. We have been told that several layers of atmosphere leads to a troposphere, an atmosphere, magnetosphere, mesosphere, all these Van Allen radiation belts, all this crap, all these layers of the atmosphere. And then you have open void space. And then there's 236,000 miles to the moon. Then there's 93 million miles to the sun. And we grow up believing this. And yet when we take a very high power telescope and we look at any star, we see nothing but an oscillating field. Don't really see a star. Same thing with an atom. In an electron microscope, we blow up an atom, we're ultimately left with an oscillating field surrounded by empty void, and it's a great vast distance from the nucleus of that oscillating field to the nearest electron, which when magnified also becomes an oscillating field. Every single thing in physical reality becomes non-local. It only localizes when we focus on it. So I can't wrap my head around this concept that the sky is only a thin barrier between us and this vast cosmos. I can't see it. It's just, I used to believe it, but now that I've read Charles Fort's over 1,000 pages of evidence on everything that's fallen from the sky, I cannot assimilate that into my worldview without changing my worldview. It's impossible. My problem is I can't take data that I accept as true and real if it doesn't comport with other things that I found. And if 17 items of evidence show me 17 different phenomena that cannot at all happen, if the Newtonian physics world that we're on a planet is true, then I can't accept that we're on a planet, because every single anomaly has to be accounted for, or my paradigm is wrong. This is my problem with a lot of people's logic. If you want to believe in the world that's been presented to you and been reinforced on a daily basis through the central nervous system's enslavement sensorial apparatus, which is very persuasive, and yet you want to entertain something like astral projection, how do you unify two completely disparate phenomena? Here's the material universe that you've accepted, and yet you want to include this right here, but you want to exclude this, and this. I can't do it. Every single thing in the human experience must in some way be explained by my worldview. Since my worldview can't explain so many of the anomalies of the ancient world, like, I believe it was 1455 over Prague, it seemed like the sky just turned off and people saw what was really in the sky, not this holographic illusion that's been presented to us. And they didn't understand it because they had absolutely no frames of reference for mechanical machinery and all that stuff at the time. They didn't know. They just described it to it as best they could. So we have many incidents throughout history of just things that don't make sense. Of islands beneath the ocean moving, of ships seeing great cigar-shaped phenomena rise out of the water giving a hissing sound, and yet the water didn't steam and then fly off. Such as happened in 1901 or 1902, one of them, I can't remember. If we can't account for the mass disappearances of huge vessels like the USS Bannockburn in the Great Lakes, Two ships had their eyes on it. Strange lights in the skies. Ship vanishes. A ship couldn't even sink that fast. All men on board and nobody's ever been seen again. Millions of bushels of cereals were on their way to Europe. They never made it. Whole ship vanished. Great Lakes have been combed many times, and many of the ships that have disappeared in the Great Lakes have never been found in the Great Lakes. And there's nowhere in the Great Lakes that's deep enough to hide these ships. No one wants to talk about it. Great Lakes are just as bad as the Bermuda Triangle and the Devil's Sea off the coast of China. The zone of silence in Mexico. We have areas in our world where phenomena occur that are inexplicable. These vanishings have really happened. The U.S. military was involved, the U.S. Navy was involved, and the Marines were involved in many of these disappearances. I'm not talking about they caused it. I'm talking about we have military records that have been made public now of military vessels totally lost at sea after anomalous activity, unable to physically see planes that were right there, but they were communicating to them on radio. But the planes themselves radioed in that they don't know where land is. We're over ocean. The ocean changed colors and looks very strange, and then nothing's ever heard from them again. Malaysian Airlines Flight 370. It never hit the water. It never landed. There's more evidence that that plane went straight up than anywhere else. There's too many anomalies that do not comport with our worldview. And yet, those who scoff at me for believing that we live within a holographic construct, when they come into contact with all these other anomalies, they edit them out instantly. Oh, man, this is what happened. This is what happened. Well, this is what happened. Well, it's really easy when you live a lifestyle where you're making money to support a family, you're going to church, you have hobbies, whatever you're doing in life. If this is your lifestyle, and you're never really studying ancient records, studying history, looking into these anomalies, then it's easy to edit them out. But I can't, because I've spent my life doing this. And now that I am cogently aware that there are so many inexplicable, fantastic anomalies, they must comport to my worldview, or my worldview is wrong. I'm a simulationist because in simulation theory, I know that anything can enter and exit a computer program if the overseers will it. Whoever is in charge of the simulacrum can edit in and edit out everything. And there are no mysteries. It's all coding. I am coding. And I know that until I physically die and this avatar ceases, I know that I am jacked into this simulacrum. Because this beautiful biogram software, it's connected to me through the central nervous system, and I can't escape it because they made my life dependent upon the central nervous system. So every time that I have to power down so it can upload more data, holographic data, palindromic data, like our DNA, every time it made sure that every time that stellosphere moves one rotation, I got to get some rest. I got to sleep. And unusual things happen to me. Debilitating things happen to me. Things begin to affect my health if I try to refuse myself some sleep. But one thing that I cannot do, I cannot not sleep. I'm going to have to. I will pass out eventually. And when I do, the central nervous system is going to upload all the data it needs to reinforce the reality tunnels that I've already found myself imprisoned in. So I'm not offended. I'm not offended by people who think I'm crazy because I believe we live in a mathematical construct, or that we live in a holographic reality, and that space is not real and all that. I don't care. I don't care that they think that, because I understand they have not come across 1% of the data that I have seen that made me believe that. I can't. Everything that I have come into contact with must comport with my worldview, or my worldview is wrong. I cannot live a life and then come into contact with anomalous data and information and then just edit it away. That doesn't work with me. It can't. So I don't even know if that guy's still on, but that's I can't. I mean, there's many things I can't prove. I can't prove that humans have ever been on the moon. I can't. And this was supposed to have happened 4 years before I was born, and yet we've never been back. I heard a rumor we went back in 1972, but we had 4 space shuttles, superior technology, and not one space shuttle ever went to the moon. That's ludicrous. The whole thing's just, it just baffles me now that people even believe that crap. That we even had that type of technology back then. Elon Musk is never going to go. He's not going to try. He's not going to attempt it, because then it would give up the game. Really, this is why you won't find any Hollywood productions about men going to the moon. Nope. The famous movie Apollo didn't show them on the moon. They didn't go. They didn't go to the moon. I don't believe they did. I don't think they did. The movie The Right Stuff, where they went, now it's all about their training and all that stuff, and then launch day and all that, but it didn't actually show them bouncing around on the moon. No. Any movies made about the moon, they use actual Apollo fake footage of Neil Armstrong and them bouncing around in whatever aquarium they were at the time. But yeah, it's just so ridiculous. But anyway, I just saw another. Let's see, I'm here. Monica Farrow, you still with us? Patrick, I've never heard of the insect plague in England. Need to check it out. Seems like a glitch to me. Yes, I addressed that, Patrick. In the video itself, I addressed that it could have been a glitch. But there are other glitches in history. But I do have a video. It's pretty far down there, but it's called Insect Plagues of a Simulated Sky. Yeah, and you can even, the book is fantastic too. Let's see. Aaron Mitchell. Yes, I'm here. I'm just at a point where I don't believe anything that I cannot prove. And I don't buy space stuff. Most people think I'm crazy, but in today's world, that's not a bad thing. You're right, Aaron. You're right. An inability to prove we can't, there's a lot of things. I mean, you got to get over that, because we know that if we take a rock and we throw it 10 feet forward, we know that because of the weight of the rock, inertia is going to set in instantly into entropy, and it's going to, and what we call gravity, is going to pull to the ground. It's going to hit the ground. We know that there is a phenomenon by which we identify as gravity. We know this, but we can't explain it. We don't know anything about it. And there are many things in our existence that are inexplicable. We can't explain it. As much as scientists and medical science wants to promote the idea that we have decoded the human genome, I'm telling you now, that's absolute bullshit. They didn't decode the human genome. They identified the actual alphabets that make up the gene sequences. But that's a far cry from decoding the genome. Our genes are fantastic, palindromic, and so many latent gene sequences are switched off. They're still trying to figure out what's what. We make as a species many claims for which are absolutely untrue. And a large claim is something that I have myself addressed in the past. Artificial intelligence, you hear it everywhere. Elon Musk has mentioned it. Bill Gates likes to mention it. All these different tech agencies and companies and Fortune 500 companies talk about the new AI, and they show some little androgynous girl boy on TV talking about, I'm AI and this is what I look like when I'm hungry and all this. It's total bullshit. There is no such thing as artificial intelligence. There can't be. The only intelligences here are those that are jacked into the central nervous system and into the simulacrum itself. Inside the simulacrum, which is artificial universe, an artificial intelligence cannot be designed. It itself is an artificial intelligence. It is intelligent, just like the insect plagues that I was describing. As soon as the simulacrum realized that collective consciousness of humanity was addressing a problem, which was the fact that we don't have any insects in England anymore. They've all vanished. As soon it overcompensated. It's like the simulacrum panicked. Oh my God, I got to put insects in the deal. But it didn't think about editing them in where they needed to be. They dropped from the sky as if the sky contained vast, huge reservoirs of flash frozen insects of all different species. Very weird. The whole thing is so weird, but it's inexplicable. But The simulacrum responds to human collective consciousness, and in some cases, it even responds to the singularity, the single human that through emotion and intense mentalism becomes so non-local that they are almost divorced from the central nervous system. That barrier, when they create the spiritual, mental, emotional barrier between them and the central nervous system, that's when the simulacrum is most threatened. It's always trying to immerse us in physicality, pleasures of the flesh, pleasures of accomplishment, anything to deal with the ego. But I can tell it's time to wrap this video up. I'm losing my train of thought. But yeah, it's we can't prove a lot of things, but we have the capacity to think through them. And the whole Apollo missions, man, if you're really interested in that, there's a book called Dark Moon. You've got to read it. Dark Moon and the NASA Whistleblowers. It's fantastic. The book will forever change your mind. NASA had all the lower level employees believing that the entire thing was live and that they were participating in history, and they had security, and they went through the whole pantomime. It's just brilliant what they did. But those astronauts, they went through something else. They went through MK Ultra. They went through brainwashing. They had their minds scrubbed. They sat in a simulator in a chemical induced high and experienced the whole moonwalk. Everything was presented to them as if it was real. So when they came back out of the simulator, they could tell the media. But every single astronaut since then has expressed their doubts. Some of them have outright said it was bullshit. Hey man, don't believe the media hype. We've never been to the moon, never seen any human outside the Van Allen belts. And if we did, when his capsule splashed down and they opened it back up, he was fried to death. Yeah. Anyway, guys, I'd like to continue this dialogue. I'm really, thank you for, it was a small group tonight, but that's good. Sometimes it's all it needs. All it takes is one person to show up when we do these live deals, and I'm gonna dialogue. Whatever. It doesn't always have to be question and answer. If you guys have an idea that you want a lot of extrapolation on, if you want more evidence of, man, shoot, send me an email. My emails are in a lot of my videos. jasonbrashear7@gmail.com. It's real easy. You spell my name and put the number 7@gmail.com. You send me emails, and I'll come up with a live video. Might do a 30, 40-minute live video. I'll send you an email back telling you exactly when I'm going to do the video that addresses the question you asked. And we'll just do it like that. Live videos are easy. And I appreciate you guys for coming tonight. And you can continue with comments in the comments section, and I'll address them when I wake up. Because in Texas, it's almost midnight. I'm tired as hell. Monica, I think you're in my time zone too. Patrick, I don't know about you. Chicago's 1 hour away, I think. Hey, get those pattern breaks. They change everything, man. Pattern breaks is how I make money. I'm telling you, man. Flagstone contracting is awesome, but I never stick with the same advertising. I'm always every 2 weeks I change my advertising, change it up, change the pictures, change up how my presentations, release my advertising, lock in more jobs, just like that. Yeah, pattern breaks are awesome. Don't ever. I used to do it. And you take this, and you need to take this from the source. Understand that this information comes from a unique source, not me as an individual. But I'm telling you from the perspective of a man who sat 26 years in a Texas prison cell. There are no pattern breaks in the physical world. All the pattern breaks to a person who is confined like that are mental. So it led me down all these corridors of discovery. But once I was released from prison, I understood. And I have had a pretty awesome life past 4.5 years since I've been out. And it's because I don't conform to a schedule. I don't conform to basically a lifestyle. I'm doing different things, and I'm always changing my mind, and it's always bringing me into contact with new people, new situations, new experiences. Pattern breaks are the key. And even if you live the most mundane life, it doesn't matter. change something that you do all the time and just do something else. And I'm telling you, man, things are going to happen for you because the simulacrum always reacts fast because you're doing something for which it did not knit a reality tunnel. Reality tunnels are its way of keeping us imprisoned in sense perceptions. And often its reaction to us benefits us greatly because it's in a state of panic. You have broke pattern. It's not used to people not conforming to the coding, excuse me. So anyway, that's it for the night. This is Jason of Archaics signing out. Monica, it's really good to see you again. Patrick and Quantum Paradox, Texas crazy cousin Florida here. Ha, boy, hey, you know what? Y'all are closer to us politically than you know. But yeah, it's Aaron Mitchell, good to meet you. I don't think I've ever seen you or engaged with you in our comment section on the videos, but those, I mean, Monica and all, you all know, if you leave a comment on any one of my videos, I do answer it. I can't think of any. Sometimes it's just a little thumbs up if it doesn't really bear an answer. Some people have asked some very deep questions in the comment sections, and I have entertained them, and I try to always. This is another video has lasted 1 hour and 50 minutes. Now I'm not going to wait a week. I didn't wait a week to do the second one. I'm not going to wait a week to do the third one. I don't know when it's going to be, 2 days, 3 days from now, whatever. But it'll probably be at a different time. This is kind of late. But it was good seeing you guys again, and I appreciate your support. Thank you.